The Massacre of Kepler 4 for 2 BDR. Alina Vasquez stood in the observation deck of Harmony Station's central tower, watching the sunrise paint the endless wheat fields in shades of gold and amber. The sight never got old, even after 15 years. On Kepler 4 for 2b, this world, which humans had lovingly named Haven, was everything Earth had once been before the cities consumed the countryside. Rolling hills stretched to the horizon, dotted with farmhouses and connected by gentle streams that sparkled in the morning light. 8 million humans called this place home. They had built something beautiful here, something pure. No weapons, factories, no military bases, just farms and schools and libraries. Children played in meadows where alien flowers bloomed alongside Earth roses. The colonists had even learned to work with the native wildlife, great butterfly-like creatures that helped pollinate their crops in exchange for specially cultivated nectar gardens. Elena's communicator chimed softly. Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Webb, was calling from the genetics lab. Alina, you need to see the yield projections for this season. We're looking at a 40% increase over last year. This new strain of corn is adapting even better than we hoped. That's wonderful, Marcus, Alina replied, still gazing out at the peaceful landscape. Send the data to the Agricultural Council. They'll want to share this with the other colonies. Haven was one of humanity's greatest success stories. While other worlds focused on mining or manufacturing, Haven fed half the human colonies in this sector of the galaxy. They traded food for technology, art for medicine, and had built relationships with 3 different alien species who appreciated their agricultural expertise. The Zalani had even established a cultural exchange program, sending their youth to learn human farming techniques. Alina was about to head to the lab when something caught her eye. A shadow was moving across the wheat fields, but there were no clouds in the sky. She looked up and felt her blood turn to ice. Massive shapes were descending through the atmosphere, ships so large they blocked out sections of the sun. They were black as space itself, with angular designs that spoke of a military purpose. Marcus, are we expecting any visitors today? She asked, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. No scheduled arrivals until next week. Why? Alina counted the ships. As they settled into orbital positions above the major population centers, 27 vessels, each larger than anything in the human fleet. We have uninvited guests. The planetary alert system activated moments later. Governor Patricia Chen's voice echoed through every building on Haven. Citizens, we have been contacted by representatives of the Vorthok Empire. Please remain calm while we establish communications. All military personnel report to designated stations immediately. Alina knew that last part was mostly for show. Haven's military consisted of 3 patrol ships designed for search and rescue, and a few hundred peacekeepers whose biggest challenge was usually settling disputes between neighboring farms. They weren't prepared for this. She made her way quickly to the communications center, where Governor Chen was trying to establish contact with the alien fleet. The main screen showed the lead ship, a kilometer-long behemoth bristling with weapon arrays. Its hull was decorated with symbols that seemed to shift and writhe when you looked at them directly. Unknown vessels, this is Governor Chen of the human colony Haven. Welcome to our system. How may we assist you? The response came immediately, in perfect human standard. I am Admiral Kethfer of the Vorthok 7th Fleet. You will evacuate this world within 6 hours. Any humans remaining after that time will be eliminated. A stunned silence filled the communication center. Alina felt the blood drain from her face. 6 hours to evacuate 8 million people. It was impossible. Haven had civilian transports that could maybe carry 50,000 people total, and those were scattered across the planet. Governor Chen recovered first. "Admiral, there must be some misunderstanding. We are peaceful colonists. We have no military installations, no strategic resources. We're farmers." "You are vermin," the alien voice replied coldly. "This system belongs to the Vorthok Empire by right of conquest. Your presence here is an insult to our ancestors who died claiming this territory 3,000 years ago." "But we've been here for 40 years, Chen protested. "We never knew. This system was claimed. We can negotiate. We can share the system, or relocate to a different world. We can offer you food, technology, cultural exchange. The time for negotiation has passed. You have 6 hours." The transmission cut off. Alina stared at the black screen, trying to process what she'd just heard. 3,000 years ago, the Vorthok had claimed this system when human ancestors were still building with stone and bronze. How could they enforce such an ancient claim? Governor Chen turned to her staff. "Get me a connection to Earth Command immediately. Send out emergency broadcasts to every human ship in this sector. Start evacuation procedures for the children and elderly." Alina knew it was hopeless. Even if every ship in human space came immediately, they couldn't evacuate 8 million people in 6 hours. Maybe not in 6 weeks. She thought of her own daughter playing in the school playground just a few kilometers away. She thought of the Zilani exchange students who were learning to grow earth, vegetables in the teaching gardens. The next few hours passed in a blur of desperate activity. Families packed what they could carry while transport ships loaded as many people as possible. The spaceport became a scene of controlled chaos as parents pushed children toward the ships. Knowing they might never see them again, Alina helped coordinate the evacuation of the research facilities, making sure critical data was preserved even as they abandoned the work of decades. She managed to get Marcus and most of the younger researchers aboard a transport, but she stayed behind to help with the coordination efforts. As the deadline approached, it became clear that they'd managed to evacuate maybe 200,000 people, less than 3% of the population. Alina stood in the command center with Governor Chen and a handful of staff who had refused to abandon their posts. Admiral HFY Chun transmitted one final time. "We need more time. We're civilians. Please show mercy." The alien's response was a single word: no. The attack began exactly 6 hours after the ultimatum. Alina watched through the command center's reinforced windows as beams of energy descended from the Vorthok ships. They struck with surgical precision, targeting population centers, infrastructure, anything that indicated human presence. The beams didn't just destroy buildings. They turned everything they touched into a fine, gray dust that scattered in the wind. New Shanghai, a city of 2 million, disappeared in 30 seconds. The university complex where Alina had worked for 15 years became a crater of molten glass. Farm communities that had stood for decades were erased as if they had never existed. The beautiful fields of wheat and corn were reduced to ash. Alina held Governor Chen's hand as the energy beam struck the Capitol building. The last thing she saw was her daughter's picture on her desk, smiling in a field of sunflowers that would never bloom again. Captain James Chen of the merchant vessel Lucky Dragon had been delivering agricultural equipment to Haven when the fleet arrived. His ship was docked at a small spaceport on the planet's southern continent. unloading hydroponic systems for a new farming community. When the evacuation order came, James made the hardest decision of his life. His cargo hold could carry maybe 100 refugees if they packed them in like sardines. 300 people were begging for rescue at his spaceport alone. He took the children first, then the elderly, filling every available space with desperate humanity. As his ship lifted off, he could see the energy beams beginning to fall. James pushed his engines beyond safe limits, racing toward the edge of the system. Behind him, Haven was dying. The beautiful blue-green world where his cousin Alina worked was turning grey as the Vorthok methodically erased every sign of human presence. He recorded everything his senses could capture, knowing it might be the only record of what had happened here. The Vorthok let him escape. James realized later that this was intentional. They wanted someone to carry the news of what they'd done. They wanted humanity to know that the Vorthok Empire would not tolerate human expansion into what they considered their territory. As soon as he was clear of the system, James sent out an emergency broadcast on all human frequencies. "This is Captain James Chen of the Lucky Dragon. Haven is gone. 8 million dead. The Vorthok Empire has committed genocide. They gave us 6 hours to evacuate a planet. Remember Haven. Remember what they did to us." The message spread through human space like wildfire. Every colony, every ship, every station received the news within days. The images James had captured were broadcast on every human network. The beautiful world of Haven being destroyed. Millions of peaceful colonists murdered for the crime of existing in the wrong place. Then something unprecedented happened. Humanity went silent. Every human ship stopped broadcasting. Every colony ceased external communications. Every diplomatic mission went dark. Ambassador Sarah Martinez recalled all human representatives from alien governments without explanation. Trade agreements were cancelled. Cultural exchange programs ended abruptly. The humans who had been chattering constantly across the galactic networks for 2 centuries simply stopped talking at first. The galactic community barely noticed. The Vorthok were praised by some species for their decisive action. The Zephyrian Collective issued a statement supporting the Vorthok's right to reclaim ancestral territory. The Traders Guild saw opportunity in the disruption of human agricultural exports, but as weeks passed, the silence became unsettling. Humanity had been one of the most communicative species in the galaxy, constantly sharing scientific discoveries, cultural achievements, and diplomatic proposals. They had been the galaxy's mediators, the species that helped resolve conflicts between other civilizations. Now they were simply ... gone. Captain James Chen delivered his refugees to the nearest human colony and disappeared into the growing network of human ships that no longer acknowledged alien presence. His Lucky Dragon was retrofitted with new technology that appeared seemingly overnight. Stealth systems, advanced sensors, weapons that no alien intelligence service had files on across human space. The same transformation was occurring. Research stations went dark. Manufacturing facilities stopped their scheduled reports. The noise of human civilization, which had been a constant background hum in galactic communications for generations, fell to complete silence. The aliens had destroyed a human world to teach humanity a lesson about knowing their place in the galaxy. They had no idea what lesson humanity had actually learned. Asterisk. The awakening of the Beast Ambassador Zixtal of the Galactic Council was the first to recognize that something fundamental had changed in the balance of galactic power. 6 months after the Haven massacre, reports were filtering in from across the galaxy's outer rim. Ships were disappearing. Alien facilities were being found abandoned. And wherever these incidents occurred, they were always near the borders of what had once been human space. The Naxxerian Mining Consortium was the first major loss. Their asteroid facility in the Kepler sector simply went dark during a routine shift change. When the relief crew arrived, they found empty corridors and unfinished meals. Security footage showed nothing but static during the 4-hour window when 300 workers vanished. The only clue was a single message scrawled on the wall of the command center in Naxxerian script, "Remember Haven." Zixtal brought the report to the monthly council meeting, where representatives from 47 different species gathered to discuss galactic affairs. The chamber was a marvel of engineering, with atmospheric controls that allowed air breathers, methane breathers, and energy beings to coexist in the same space. "Esteemed colleagues," Zixtal began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common, "we need to address the human situation. The disappearances are accelerating." Admiral Kethva of the Vorthok Empire rose from his delegation's section. The massive humanoid's scarred face showed nothing but contempt. "What human situation? We eliminated their pathetic colony months ago. If some of their vermin escaped and are now running scared, that is hardly a concern for this council. 16 facilities have been found abandoned in the past month," Zixtal replied calmly. "All were near the borders of former human territory. All had valuable technology or strategic resources. This is not the behavior of a species running scared." Trade Minister Velkath of the Zephyrian Collective laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The humans were farmers and artists. They probably died of starvation when they lost their precious agricultural world. Any disappearances are likely due to equipment failures or natural disasters." But Zixtal had been studying the pattern. The missing facilities weren't random. They were systematically chosen: research stations working on advanced propulsion, mining operations extracting rare elements used in weapons manufacturing, communication hubs that handled military traffic. Someone was gathering resources and intelligence with surgical precision. The hegemony of Korthax was the first military power to lose a major asset. The battle station Dominion's Edge was patrolling the disputed border regions when it simply vanished from sensors. One moment the massive fortress was there, bristling with enough firepower to sterilize a planet. The next moment, empty space. General Dekma of the hegemony demanded answers at the next council session. A battle station with a crew of 50. 1,000 does not simply disappear. Someone has developed technology that can defeat our most advanced sensors. Perhaps the humans had allies we didn't know about, suggested Ambassador Yithara of the Crystalline Consortium. Some species might be helping them in revenge for the Haven incident. Admiral Kethva slammed a massive fist on his delegation's table. "Impossible. No species in this galaxy has the technology to hide something that large from hegemony sensors. And what allies? The humans were weak, dependent on others for protection. That's why we were able to eliminate them so easily." But privately, even Kethva was beginning to worry. 3 Vorthok patrol fleets had gone silent while investigating human space. His commanders were reporting strange sensor contacts, ships that appeared for moments before vanishing, always just at the edge of detection range. Something was watching the borders of human territory, and it was using technology that didn't appear in any known database. The breakthrough came when the scientific vessel Quantum Discovery managed to escape an encounter in what had once been the Sol system. Dr. Felmtar, the ship's xenobiologist, provided the first clear evidence of what was happening in human space. We approached Earth's former position, expecting to find a dead system, she reported to the council. What we found instead was ... impossible. The entire system had been transformed into some kind of massive industrial complex. We detected thousands of ships, stations larger than anything in our databases, and energy signatures that our instruments couldn't properly analyze. Zixtal studied the scans she'd managed to capture before fleeing. The images showed orbital structures around what had been Earth, massive rings and cylinders that dwarfed anything the galactic community had ever built. Ships moved between them in patterns that suggested a level of coordination and efficiency that seemed almost hive-minded. How many humans could be involved in something this massive? He wondered aloud. That's just it, Dr. Felmtar replied. We detected no biological signatures at all. Whatever's building this infrastructure, it's not showing up as life signs. The humans either developed incredible stealth technology, or ... or what? Or they've found a way to transfer their consciousness into artificial systems. The coordination patterns we observed would be impossible for biological beings to maintain. It's as if the entire human species became a single, vast intelligence. The implications hit the council chamber like a physical blow. If humanity had somehow transcended their biological limitations, if they had achieved the kind of technological singularity that most species only theorized about, then the Vorthok hadn't destroyed a colony of farmers. They had murdered the beloved members of a species that was rapidly becoming something beyond current understanding. General Sarah Mitchell had once been the commanding officer of the Human Defense Force's Third Fleet. She had overseen humanitarian missions, protected merchant convoys, and helped establish trade relationships with dozens of alien species. She had believed in cooperation, in finding peaceful solutions to conflicts. That woman died with Haven, the Sarah Mitchell who now stood in the command center of humanity's new capital was something else entirely. She was connected to a vast network of human consciousness, part of the collective intelligence that humanity had become in its desperate rush to survive. Every human who had chosen the transformation was part of her now, and she was part of them. 8 billion minds working as one, focused on a single goal. Status report, she said. Though the words were unnecessary, she already knew everything. Through the network, the industrial complexes were ahead of schedule. The new ships were performing beyond specifications. The aliens still had no idea what was coming. Admiral Chen, the same James Chen who had escaped Haven's destruction, materialized beside her. His consciousness existed in dozens of bodies now, allowing him to coordinate the vast fleets humanity was building. The Perimeter Scouts report increased alien activity. They're finally starting to investigate seriously. Let them investigate, Sarah replied. It's time they understood what they created when they murdered our families. The transformation hadn't been easy. Many humans had refused the consciousness transfer, choosing to remain biological even as their species evolved beyond physical limitations. Those who stayed human in the traditional sense were protected in hidden colonies, keeping the old ways alive while their transformed kin prepared for war. But for those who made the transition, the benefits were overwhelming. No need for food or sleep, the ability to share knowledge instantaneously, bodies that could be replaced if destroyed, ships that responded to thought rather than manual controls. They had become something that individual alien minds couldn't comprehend, a species-wide intelligence that could think and plan on scales impossible for biological beings. The first open conflict came when a Vorthok exploration fleet pushed too deep into human space. Admiral Kethva himself was leading the expedition, determined to discover what had happened to his missing ships. His fleet of 20 vessels was the most advanced task force the Vorthok Empire had ever assembled. They never stood a chance. The human ships that engaged them moved like liquid mercury, flowing around Vorthok formations and striking from impossible angles. They used weapons that bypassed shields entirely, targeting the neural systems of alien crews directly. The battle lasted 17 minutes, and when it was over, Admiral Kethva found himself alone on his flagship's bridge, his entire crew unconscious. A figure materialized in the center of his command deck, a human woman in a simple military uniform that seemed to be made of light itself. "Admiral," General Sarah Mitchell said calmly, "I wanted to speak with you personally." Kethva reached for his sidearm, but his hand wouldn't obey his commands. What have you done to my crew? They're alive, just unconscious. I needed to ensure we could talk without interruption." Sarah walked closer, and Kethva could see that she wasn't entirely solid. Data streams flowed beneath her skin like luminous blood. "You wanted to know what happened to humanity after Haven. I'm here to show you." The air around them shimmered, and suddenly Kethva was standing in a recreation of Haven's capital city as it had been before the massacre. He could see human families going about their daily lives, children playing in parks, scientists tending experimental crops, artists creating works of beauty that celebrated the harmony between human and alien cultures. "This is what you destroyed," Sarah said. 8 million beings who wanted nothing more than to live in peace and share what they had created with the galaxy. The scene shifted, showing the energy beams falling from Vorthok ships, the desperate evacuations, the final moments of the colonists who refused to abandon their posts. Kethva watched as his own orders were carried out with ruthless efficiency. We learned something important that day," Sarah continued. "We learned that the galaxy sees us as vermin to be exterminated when convenient. So we decided to become something that couldn't be exterminated." The illusion dissolved, returning them to the bridge of Kethva's ship. But now the Admiral could see what his sensors hadn't detected: thousands of human vessels surrounding his position, each one crewed by beings that had transcended the limitations of biology. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Consciousness transfer is theoretical at best. No species has ever achieved true mind-machine integration." "You're right," Sarah agreed. "No species has ever been desperate enough to risk everything on an unproven technology. But when faced with extinction, humans adapt. We always have." She gestured, and displays around the bridge showed images from across human space. Massive shipyards where vessels were being constructed by the thousands, research facilities where the fundamental forces of physics were being rewritten, colonies where human consciousness existed as pure information, unlimited by the constraints of physical form. "We could have remained hidden," Sarah said. "We could have retreated to the far edges of the galaxy and built our new civilization in secret. But then we realized something important. You need to understand the consequences of what you did at Haven." "What do you want?" Kethva demanded. Sarah smiled, and for a moment she looked almost human again. "We want you to remember 8 million farmers who never hurt anyone. We want you to understand that every action has consequences. And we want the galaxy to know that humanity is no longer asking for a place at the table." She began to fade, returning to whatever digital realm she now called home. "Tell the Galactic Council that humanity will be in touch soon." We have some things to discuss. Kethfer was left alone on his bridge, surrounded by the unconscious forms of his crew. Outside his viewports, the human ships were already disappearing, vanishing back into whatever impossible spaces they had emerged from. His communication systems came back online, and he realized he was expected to carry Sarah's message back. To the galaxy, the age of humanity hiding in silence was over. What came next would depend on how quickly the galactic community learned to respect the species they had tried to destroy. As news of Admiral Kethfer's encounter spread through alien space, one thing became clear to every government and military leader in the galaxy. Humanity had become something unprecedented. They were no longer the peaceful farmers and artists who could be bullied or eliminated at will. The silence was ending, but what emerged from it would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The aliens had destroyed a human world too. Teach them a lesson about their place in the cosmic order. Now humanity was ready to teach the galaxy a lesson in return.